So as Pakistan heads to the polls, we're getting you this story from the country's Punjab province, where some women are all set to cast aside decades-old traditions that ban them from voting. Here's more.
They were banned from voting soon after the partition of British India. They were told that visiting a public polling booth would dishonor them. They silently obeyed and haven't exercised their rights since. But this year, in Pakistan's Punjab province, the women of Mohri village are all set to take on the patriarchal taboo as they are ready to walk down to the polling stations and cast their ballots on the 25th of July.
यहाँ के मर्द हजरात की जो यानी कि इनकी अना पे जो भारी ज़रब पड़ती है वो यही है कि औरतें जो हैं वो वोट कास्ट ना करें। शायद ये हमें बेवकूफ़ समझते हैं।
According to the Election Commission of Pakistan, over 9.13 million women voters across the country have newly entered the electoral rolls. The poll commission has also declared that a constituency will be declared null and void if at least 10% of the electorate are not women. This comes as a huge boost to women's rights in Pakistan, where the majority of women are not even allowed to choose their husbands, leave alone the country's government. However, not all women are ready to break the glass ceiling. Among them is this young student.
अगर हम खुद अकेले जाएंगे तो उधर कोई लड़ाई फसाद होगा, उधर फितना होगा, उधर हमारे मर्द हमें मारना शुरू कर दें, गाली गलौज शुरू कर दें, तो फिर हमारी इज्जत कहाँ जाएगी? इससे बेहतर है हम घर में ही बैठ जाएं।
The head of this village too chooses to fight for tradition rather than the rights of local women.
हम अपनी औरतों के वोट नहीं डलवाएंगे और उस वक़्त से आज तक ये एक रिवायत बन चुकी है कि हमारी औरतें उन अपने आबाओ अजदाद, उन अपने बड़ों के फैसले के एहतराम में वोट नहीं डालती।
It's this very tradition that Fawzia Talib shattered when she became the first woman from Mohri to cast her vote in the local polls in 2015.
औरतें वहाँ की इसलिए वोट नहीं डालती कि उनको सपोर्ट नहीं है। वो इस जो उनका रवायत है वो अपने शौहर या बाप या भाई उनके ख़िलाफ़ नहीं जाना चाहती हूँ। वो कहती हैं कि जैसे वो अगर हमें लेके चलेंगे तो हम वोट कास्ट कर लेंगे, अगर वो नहीं तो वो नहीं जाना चाहती, वो नहीं डालना चाहती। पहला वोट मैंने ही कास्ट किया था और मैंने भी इसी वजह से किया था कि इसको तोड़ा जाए, इस रवायत को।
Joining Fawzia is women like Bismillah Noor, who are not ready to give up their fight against unjust traditions. As she calls for a meeting under the village's Jambolan tree, she hopes that on the 25th of July, there will be hundreds of those who will spill ink on history and write it afresh. Bureau Report, WION.
To talk about, as far as the elections go, multiple factors that might affect it, and joining us on the broadcast today to talk more about that is British Pakistani writer and journalist Reham Khan. Reham, good evening. Thanks very much for making time once again. We just finished with this report about the role of women when it comes to this election, especially women in rural areas. I had a lot of other questions for you, but let's start by just talking a bit more about the vote of the woman and how important it is for contenders from the PMLN, from the PPP. How important is the woman factor this time around?
Thank you. It's very important. It's not only important this time around, it's always been important and still a huge problem in 2018. It was a problem in 2013. It was not addressed by any party by, in the last 5 years. It's proving to be very difficult for areas, particularly the areas that I work in. For example, Waziristan, we have a brilliant candidate who I'm personally supporting this time, an independent candidate who was refused a ticket and then later on went on to join the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement. And he tells me directly from Waziristan that women want to vote, but there are no arrangements made by the elections and by the ECP to facilitate this vote. Bannu is another another area where it's a problem. And I can tell you a personal incident, a personal anecdote, that back in 2015, there was the by-elections in Dir. This is traditionally an area, it's a mountainous region, and it's actually traditionally held by the Jamaat-e-Islami, but there's a strong Pakistan People's Party growing support there, and so it was actually quite sad because I was there as part of the PTI, as the PTI's leader's wife, and on the date that the vote was to be cast, it was I think the 30th of the month. 2 days before that, the PTI's Women Commission head sent both me and my husband, the party chairman, a letter saying that the vote had been withheld. And actually, when I saw the letter, it was very shameful because it had the signs of the local PTI as well as the local other parties also, where it had clearly been written that the women would not be allowed to vote. In a historic decision by the ECP, that was turned that was actually ruled in favor of having the elections again, and we had a very good result from there. But this time, sadly, not only the women voter turnout is going to be low, but generally speaking as well, there is an apathy, and there's also a perception, a growing perception, that the elections are so that the dirty game is being played and that the elections are going to be rigged, and that perception means that
Right, let's try and reconnect with Reham. I think we're having a bit of trouble with her connection. She's speaking with us from London, remember. But of course, the point as far as women's importance as far as this election goes can't be, let's say, stressed any further. Women do play an important part in Pakistani politics. Remember, Benazir Bhutto was the first woman to be elected the Prime Minister in Pakistan many years ago, in a Muslim majority country. That in itself was a significant step in Pakistan. Right, so while we wait to re-establish connection with Reham Khan, let's take you through some of the factors that do come up when it comes to women even choosing to exercise their franchise as adults in Pakistan.